and welcome to the Five Pods of Xmas. Today we have Daily Commercial News staff writer Angela Gismondi, who's going to give her look at what she thinks were the biggest stories of the year and what she thinks is coming up next year for us. So Angela, take it away. What were the big stories of the year?
Yeah, so I think this year the big newsmakers were issues, but they were also people. So
Mhm.
in terms of issues, the construction stakeholders in Ontario said that COVID continues to be a top issue. So they're basically saying, it's not over yet, and they're really feeling the effects and the aftermath, the fallout from the pandemic, which is supply chain issues, labor shortages, and the housing crisis particularly were the top three concerns. So
Mhm.
in terms of people, a lot of the stakeholders said that Premier Doug Ford and his government ministers like Monty McNaughton, who's the Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development in Ontario, were the top newsmakers this year, not only for the way that they continue to handle the COVID-19 pandemic, but for providing funding for infrastructure, for skills training, for municipalities to get their infrastructure built, and for workers to continue working. So one example a couple of stakeholders mentioned was the Safe Restart Agreement 2.0, which involved investments from the provincial and the federal governments to keep municipal budgets afloat and let workers keep working generally. Also, more recently, is the funding of the Bradford bypass and Highway 413. And that was a big deal for a lot of them as they see it. It's going to provide jobs and it's going to boost the economy going forward in the new year and the years to come. And then they also said that the government has been constantly, like pretty much every week or every other week, making announcements about funding for training and apprenticeships and retraining workers, who worked in other industries and that were hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So those were the big things this year that I'm hearing from leaders in Ontario.
Like it seems like it was mostly COVID, but not all of it. Was there anything else that wasn't? I mean, obviously COVID dominated the headlines for the second year in a row, but there were a few other things too that happened this year that were kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically focused on the economic recovery, I guess was a big thing, which again is
Mhm.
related to COVID. I feel like everything that kind of happened was related to COVID. The housing crisis too was a part of that. Um, Supply chain has been huge. I can't really think of anything that's not somehow
No, it's
related
it's
to
pretty
COVID.
inescapable. Now, those are the biggest stories of the year, but you also had some favorite stories that you did this year, so maybe you could tell us what those were.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would call them favorite, but definitely the most impactful stories
Hmm. Hmm.
this year. So for me, the year, like the theme of the year was kind of going one step forward or one step further and doing a deeper dive into some of the issues that we cover. So obviously, our special series, Cracking the Foundation on Substance Use and Mental Health in Construction was a highlight.
Hmm.
But again, it was about going one step forward. So as journalists, we're always covering sessions on mental health or opioid use, but it's usually from an expert on the subject. And I found that the most impactful presentations were first person accounts. So people who've actually
Hmm.
struggled with substance abuse and what they went through, and they're, sharing their story and how they turned their lives around. And I wanted to feature that as part of the series. So it wasn't easy. Like there wasn't a lot of people who were willing to share their stories. And I think
No.
the other reporters felt the same way. They felt they faced the same challenges in finding people to actually speak openly about their stories.
Hmm. But you got
So
some good ones, really good ones.
yeah, and that's actually I was going to just mention one that really left a lasting impression on me. I reached out to the carpenters, and they were able to connect me with Rob Trymbulak, who's a construction
Hmm.
worker who was working on the Gordie Howe Bridge project in Windsor, Ontario, and he went through a program at the De Novo Treatment Center, which is a treatment center for people in the trades in Ontario. And now he's living in recovery. And I did a video interview with him, and his story really seemed to resonate with our readers and I guess our viewers because it was a video. And I've received a lot of positive feedback on not just that interview, but the entire series. People saying that it was something that was really needed in the industry, and that it needed to be exposed and people need to talk more openly about it. So that was something that was really a highlight of the year for me.
what do you think, besides COVID, or maybe it is COVID, is going to be the big story for 2022, which sounds weird to say even now.
Yeah, I think rebuilding is going to be a big thing. Hopefully more infrastructure announcements. There was also one thing that happened recently was the government announced this again, was replacing the Ontario College of Skilled Trades. Sorry, the Ontario College of Trades with Skilled Trades Ontario. So that announcement was made recently. And a few of the stakeholders I spoke to, again, mentioned that and how that's going to change things. So they had formed an advisory committee to consult with the industry, and that was really well received. And so a few of them are saying, in the new year, it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of comes together, the first few decisions that they're going to be making, and how that kind of rolls out. So there'll be a lot of people with looking at that.
Okay. And I guess there's also an election, a provincial election happening next year. So that probably means a lot of projects will be proposed, if not actually started, before the election.
Right. I think we're going to see a lot more announcements in the new year for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks, Angela.
Yeah, no problem.